Hey everyone, and welcome back to Digital Dispatch. We're going to be doing a deep dive today, and well, this story is just fascinating. It's about AI. It's about government secrets, and honestly, it's about a company that is sort of walking this very fine line.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You have this company, Anthropic,
Yeah.
and they've really built their entire reputation on being the good guys,
Right.
the ethical AI company. They're all about AI safety and making sure that AI is used responsibly. But their latest move has left a lot of people scratching their heads.
Right. It's like they want to be the superheroes of AI.
Yeah,
I mean, even their AI model is named Claude, which sounds,
Yeah.
pretty friendly.
exactly. And up until now, Anthropic has really focused on making sure that AI is used for good, for positive things, not for bad, not for things that could harm people.
So, like, what's all the buzz about? What is this move?
So they just announced this partnership with Palantir.
Talent.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Palantir is this data analytics company that works a lot with government agencies. And get this, they're going to be giving these agencies access to Claude to analyze classified information.
Whoa. Hold on. Classified information. Like, we talking top secret stuff here.
Potentially. Yeah, we're talking up to the secret level.
Okay. So what exactly is Claude going to be doing with all this data? Is it going to be like some kind of digital spy?
Not exactly a spy, but it will be sifting through mountains of data. I mean, Anthropic and Palantir say there are three main things that Claude will focus on. The first is, it can just process information so fast, like
Yeah.
way faster than a human ever could.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, governments have so much data to deal with.
Mhm.
So being able to go through that quickly could be super valuable.
Right, exactly. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that Claude can find these hidden patterns and trends that humans might just completely miss. It's like having a super detective who can spot these clues that are buried deep in a case file.
Ooh, that's kind of cool, especially in like intelligence work. That could be really useful.
Right. Yeah. And then the third thing is that Claude can make document review and prep way more efficient.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
Like going through pages and pages of reports.
Exactly. Instead of you spending weeks, going through all this stuff, Claude can whoop through those documents and pull out the key information in like a fraction of the time.
Yeah, they actually gave an example of this. An insurance company used Claude to do something that normally takes 2 weeks in just 3 hours.
Yeah, it's amazing how much faster things can get done with this kind of AI.
But let's get back to this whole government access thing. Why is this partnership causing so much controversy?
Well, on the surface, it seems like a complete contradiction. I mean, you have Anthropic, this ethical AI company, and now they're handing over their powerful AI to government agencies, which, let's face it, don't always have the best track record when it comes to ethics.
Yeah, it's like a vegan chef who suddenly decides to open a steakhouse. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem to align.
Exactly. And then to make things even more complicated, Palantir itself is a pretty controversial company. Remember Project Maven?
Project Maven.
That was that AI system developed for the military to help identify targets.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a lot of ethical pushback, and Palantir was heavily involved in that project.
Yeah, I remember Project Maven. That was definitely controversial.
So now you have Anthropic, the ethical AI company, teaming up with Palantir, this company that has, a history of working on projects that have raised ethical concerns. It's a very strange pairing.
Okay, yeah, I see that. And we also have to remember that AI, even advanced AI like Claude, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
We've all heard those stories about, large language models or LLMs just like making stuff up.
Oh, yeah, the hallucinations.
Yeah, hallucinating information.
It's a big concern because, they're trained on all this text data
Mm.
and they learn to generate text that sounds very human-like, but sometimes the stuff they come up with is just completely wrong.
Yeah.
But it sounds so convincing.
So imagine that happening with classified intelligence data. Like
Mhm.
that could lead to all sorts of problems,
Right.
like misinterpretations, wrong decisions.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why this partnership is causing so much debate. People are worrying about what could happen if this powerful AI technology, even with, the best intentions, gets used in the wrong way or just produces unreliable results.
It definitely seems like Anthropic is stepping into some pretty murky waters here.
Right.
But to be fair, they have laid out some rules about how governments can and can't use Claude.
Right. They've said that things like analyzing foreign intelligence, trying to spot influence campaigns, that's okay. But using Claude for disinformation, building weapons censorship, or spying on U.S. citizens, that's all strictly off limits.
Okay, that's good to know. But how do they actually enforce those rules? I mean, how can they be sure that the government won't overstep those boundaries? How much transparency will there be around all of this?
Yeah. Those are all excellent questions. And this is where things get even more complicated because Anthropic has indicated that, agencies that are working with them closely on a regular basis might have a little bit more leeway in how they use Claude.
Oh, so like an insider access kind of situation.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Yeah.
so that raises concerns about, how these rules will actually be applied in practice and whether there will be enough oversight to prevent misuse.
This whole thing reminds me of that time I was trying to use a chatbot to book a flight. It was a total disaster. It kept giving me all these nonsensical options, like routes that didn't even exist. And now imagine that happening with like classified intelligence data.
It's a great analogy. It really highlights, the potential for mishaps and unintended consequences when you're relying on AI, especially when you're dealing with sensitive information.
It's definitely a complex issue with no easy answers,
Right.
but it's a conversation we need to be having.
Absolutely. AI is becoming more and more powerful, and it's becoming more integrated into our lives every day. We need to understand the potential benefits, but we also need to be aware of the risks and be ready to ask some really tough questions about how this technology is being used.
Well said. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of AI and government secrets, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes of Digital Dispatch. And hey, if you think your friends would find this conversation interesting, share it with them too. Let's get more people talking about these important issues. We'll be back in a jiffy.
It's fascinating to see how this is playing out in the AI community because there are a lot of different opinions about it.
Mm.
Some experts are really publicly criticizing Anthropic. They're saying this move completely undermines their credibility as leader in responsible AI,
It's like they built this whole reputation as being the good guys, the ones
Yeah.
trying to do AI the right way. And now they're partnering with organizations that, well, let's just say have a more complicated track record.
Right. Yeah. It definitely makes you question whether they're really committed to these ethical principles or if they're just kind of jumping on the bandwagon of these lucrative government contracts.
And it brings up this bigger question, too, about the role of AI in society.
Mm.
Where do we draw the line? Is it ever okay for companies that are, supposedly prioritizing ethics to be working with the government on these kinds of potentially sensitive projects?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. And I don't think there's an easy answer. It really depends on your perspective. Some people say any involvement with the military or intelligence agencies is just inherently problematic no matter how ethical the company claims to be.
Because, these agencies have a history of overreach and secrecy and sometimes even misuse of technology. So even if a company like Anthropic has good intentions, their technology could end up being used in ways they never intended.
Exactly. But then there are others who have a more pragmatic view. They say it's actually better for companies like Anthropic, with their focus on safety and responsibility, to be involved in these projects.
So they're saying if these projects are going to happen anyway, it's better to have someone at the table who's at least pushing for ethical considerations and safeguards.
Exactly, because if companies like Anthropic don't get involved, then, these projects might end up in the hands of organizations that don't have those same concerns. So it's like choosing the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, it's like, do you want somebody baking a cake who's never even read a recipe? Or do you want someone who at least has some experience, even if they're not a master chef?
Exactly. It's a tricky situation.
Hmm.
And it feels like we need a new playbook for how we evaluate these kinds of partnerships.
Hmm.
Maybe it's not enough to just take a company's word for it when they say they're committed to ethical AI.
We need to look at the specific applications, the potential risks, and how much oversight there is to prevent misuse.
Absolutely. And these conversations need to happen out in the open. We need input from ethicists, policymakers, researchers, and most importantly, the public, because this technology is going to impact all of our lives.
It's not just something for the tech industry to figure out. It's something we all need to be thinking about.
And we need to be thinking about it now, not 10 years from now, when this technology is even more powerful and even more integrated into our lives. We need to set the ground rules now before it's too late.
This whole situation with Anthropic and Palantir is kind of a wake-up call. It's forcing us to confront some really fundamental questions about the role we want AI to play in our society.
Right. Do we want it to be a tool for good? Do we want it to help us solve our biggest problems? Or do we want to risk it being used for harmful purposes? These are choices we have to make, and the decisions we make now are going to have a huge impact on the future.
It's like we're at this fork in the road, and the path we choose is going to determine the direction AI takes and how it shapes our world.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to put it. We need to be really deliberate about the path we choose.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener? What are some key takeaways from all of this?
Well, first, stay informed. This technology is evolving so quickly, so, keep up with the latest developments. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. Challenge assumptions, demand transparency. and most importantly, engage in these conversations.
Exactly. We need to be talking about where we draw the line when it comes to AI, about what level of government access is acceptable, and about how we ensure that this technology is used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity.
This isn't just about Anthropic and Palantir. This is about the future of AI and how it will impact our lives.
We've been exploring the story of Anthropic. This company focused on ethical AI and their decision to partner with the government to analyze classified information. And we've talked about the potential benefits, but also the very real ethical concerns and potential risks. And, we've emphasized how important oversight and accountability are and public engagement in shaping the future of AI.
And ultimately, whether you think Anthropic is jeopardizing their ethical stance by working with the government, that's a question each individual will have to answer for themselves. There's no right or wrong answer. But it definitely raises some really important questions that deserve our attention and our careful consideration.
Before we wrap up, I just want to remind everyone that if you're enjoying this deep dive into the complexities of AI, make sure you subscribe to Digital Dispatch so you don't miss any future episodes. We cover a wide range of topics from the latest tech gadgets to the ethical dilemmas of these emerging technologies.
And if you found this episode thought-provoking, share it with your friends. The more people we have engaged in these conversations, the better equipped we'll all be to navigate the future of AI.
It really does feel like we're in uncharted territory here with AI and these government partnerships. It's like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, it is. And it's a slippery slope, too. Once you start making exceptions or bending the rules, where do you draw the line? How do you stop it from going too far? It's tough.
And that's where this whole idea of ethical AI gets so complicated. It sounds good in theory, but when you're dealing with the real world, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, and we have to remember technology doesn't exist in a vacuum. AI is being shaped by the people who create it, by the organizations that use it, by the whole context of society.
So even if a company like Anthropic has good intentions, things could still go wrong. Their technology could be used in ways they didn't expect or want.
Exactly, which is why oversight and accountability are so important. We need ways to make sure that AI is being used responsibly, ethically, and in a way that aligns with our values.
And it's not just the companies who are responsible.
No, it's all of us. Governments, policymakers, citizens, we all need to be asking tough questions about how AI is being used and who's benefiting and who's taking on the risk.
This case with Anthropic and Palantir really brings all of this to light.
Yeah.
It makes us think about the big picture.
Yeah.
What role do we want AI to play? What kind of safeguards do we need?
And we need to be having these conversations now, not later when it might be too late.
It feels like we're at a crossroads. We need to choose the right path, a path where AI is a force for good.
Well said. This isn't just about one company or one government agency. This is about the future.
So as we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with a question for them to think about. Where do you draw the line when it comes to AI and government access? Is there any level of access that's okay if a company says they're focused on ethical AI development?
That's something we all need to think about. The future of AI is in our hands.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI government secrets and all the ethical questions that come with these new technologies. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe to Digital Dispatch so you don't miss out on future episodes. And hey, if you know someone who would enjoy this conversation, share it with them. The more people we can get thinking about these things, the better. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.